Welcome back to the What's Your Take podcast. I'm Justin Lewis, and I'm here with Joshua Miller. Josh, say what's up to the people, man.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the second episode of What's Your Take podcast. We got a lot in store today, starting with last weekend's game against Ohio Dominican.
Thanks. We're going to talk about West Alabama. They're coming up, number 20 West Alabama, that is. The Blazers are hosting them this weekend.
Big game.
And then, of course, we're going to have the hot takes. Josh, do you have yours ready, or are you going to wing it?
Oh, no, I got mine ready.
I might have to wing mine. But first, before we get into that, we have to give shout-outs, have to give props where it's due. Shout out to VSU Volleyball. They went 3-1 over the weekend. Yep. Daria Powell and Kayla Wadir they were selected to the all-conference team for that conference, so shout out to them.
Kayla also made GSC Defense Player of the Week.
Yes, she did.
Also, shout out to soccer team. VSU Soccer got their first W.
Ashley Lewis. It must run in the last name. Like, if your last name is Lewis, you're destined to do great things, of course. I mean, shout out to you, though.
Anyways, Ashley Lewis, great game. 2 scores. They won 2-0.
That first goal was a beauty.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was great. Their next game is against Albany State as well. Yeah. So, quick shout out. Now, let's get right into last game, Justin. VSU against Ohio Dominican. Blazers torched them up 48-21. I'm going to throw it to you right quick. Go ahead and tell me what you thought about the game.
Well, I mean, the first thing that you have to talk about with this win, you would think it would be the offense, with 48 points. But I'm going to talk about the defense. They held Ohio Dominican to 13 net rushing yards. That's unheard of. I think they had about 20 or so carries on the night, and they only got 13 net rushing yards. The defense was a real menace. I just think that, like I said last week, the Black Swarm is ready to make that statement like, hey, we're legit too. We're the Black Swarm. Nice to meet you. This is not a game. We're legit. So I have to start off with that. Shout out to them. The Black Swarm really held it down. They only allowed them 3 scores. That last score, it kind of came late in the game. He just says they're all flukes because his hot take was busted in the first quarter. He said they weren't going to score at all, which was absurd if you look at it. But the defense played really well. Josh, you want to get into a little bit of the offense?
Well, before we get into the defense, let's talk about that. Pocket pressure on the quarterback from the first snap. The first snap, they were all over him. Thomas and Coombe on the line, 3 sacks on the game. I mean, that's a great setup for a good season.
You hit me with the stat earlier. Jags had the most sacks last year with 5, right?
Yep.
So he had that. He got more than half of that total in one game. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
Great pressure on the pocket all game long. Like I said, that first touchdown was like a big broken coverage probably. I mean, that was a fluke. They only scored 3 times. You know what? Another hot take will live another day. But as far as the offense went, I mean, 327 total passing yards. But check this out. Ivory Durham, the backup, with 107 yards and a touchdown. 1 touchdown off their first play on the first drive of the game. I mean, they're fast. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, the first play, Coach Goff said it after the game, you really couldn't have drawn it up any better. You have Ivory in the game at wide receiver. He comes on a reverse, gets the handoff from Rogan, sends a missile to Leandre, who is streaking down the field.
In stride.
Gallimore walks right into the end zone. They're up 7-0 right off the bat. From there, it was kind of just like, we're going to hit you, and we're going to hit you, and we're going to hit you. Josh, you had that really nice highlight of LC catching the ball right before the half. He laid out for it and went and got it. That was a big play. LC, let's look at the numbers for Gallimore. 5 receptions, 133 yards. 58 was the longest one. That was the opening play.
And a tub.
It was an obvious effort to get their number 1 receiver going. I think that's something that we talked about last week, that, in a game like that, you really need to get your guys going, and they did it from the jump.
Easily. And one of my other takes that you didn't shine on any light on, Seth McGill had a good game.
Yeah.
I had to. He had 64 on the ground, and what's this? Actually, he had 63 on the ground with 28 yards. That's almost 90 yards all-purpose. He had a good game, but one thing that especially jumped out to both of us was how many times Jamar Tompkins was getting called to catch the ball and then just run the ball. He had a great game as well.
I think the Blazers are starting to show a different dimension to their offense. Everybody knows about the receivers. You know about Kenny Benjamin. You know about Buzz Signs. You probably already know about David White. But the receiving out of the backfield, how can you guard that? If you have 4 all-conference receivers out wide, 2 all-conference receivers in your backfield, that you can't stop it. And then 2 all-conference quarterbacks in your backfield as well. That's just a recipe for success. So it's pretty ridiculous. I will say my hot take was wrong as well. I said the Black Swarm would score twice. Didn't happen. It's okay, though. They still had a pretty solid game. I said Ohio Dominican would get 21 points. They did that. Or I said they would score 3 times. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I think both of us were pretty much on par with our
You're
takes.
forgetting something. You also mentioned no blowout. There was no blowout. But there was a blowout. I mean, 48-21. Justin, you're going to take that L on that tape.
48-21 is a good win. I won't call it a blowout win.
I mean, if we're going to look at score, maybe not, but in the fashion they won, it's a blowout.
I mean, they brought in Ivory and a lot of the backups in the second half, so I'm not going to concede that it was a blowout win. I think it was a good win. It was a solid win against a playoff caliber opponent. And hey, like Coach Goff said in the post-game presser, we're dangerous. The Blazers are dangerous. I think this is a team that's hungry. They're looking for more. Maybe this weekend against number 20, West Bama. Can we get into that?
Let's get into it then. Now, one thing I mentioned last weekend, what everybody knows, how fast these players are, and they showed against Ohio Dominican. They're about to speed past West Alabama. Now, let me take you back to last year. Last year, they won 58-24. Rogan Hill, excuse me. If we're talking about 2018, Rogan Hill, 341 yards, 5 touchdowns, had 2 receivers and 100 yards. They had touchdowns as well. I mean, offense was on fire last season, and they're going to continue this year, I believe.
I think they'll have a good game offensively, but a real reason why they were able to score that many points, they had 2 defensive scorers. Ravarius Rivers, touchdown, 66-yard touchdown, and then Alex Brown also had an interception return for a touchdown. So you can't overlook the defense and their capabilities. Now, West Alabama is a team that always plays us very, very tough. So what do you think the Tigers will come in looking for? They're number 20 in the nation. VSU is number 1. This is the first conference game. What do you think they're going to come in looking for?
You have to look for everything. Are you crazy? You have to look at everything from quarterback to left tackle to the wide receiver, defense. You forgot to mention Taurus Dotson had an interception last season against West Alabama. We haven't seen much of him this season.
Played sparingly. Yeah.
Free that guy. Plays well.
Yeah.
But the question is what not to look for. If you're West Al, what not to look for? I mean, we're talking about VSU didn't even attempt a field goal against the Ohio Dominican because, I mean, they were just getting in the end zone.
Which we talked about it last week. That may be a concern going forward. You don't really know what you have field goal-wise.
Not yet.
One thing about that game against Ohio Dominican that may be of concern and something that's kind of been lagging this entire season, the penalties for the Blazers. Of course, I did my Pick 6 column, Valdosta Daily Times. Go check that out. I'm going to plug myself, of course. But one of my takeaways from that game was the penalties that were piling on for the Blazers. They had 12 for 98 yards the last game against Ohio Dominican. The game before that against Albany State, they had 7 for 53. So, I mean, you have 19 penalties already on this young season through 2 games. And that last drive before the half where they had 4 in a row, that kind of just stalled them out from getting any points. That's something that you may have to look at. So that may be a place where the Tigers can take advantage.
Here's another thing I'm looking at. West Alabama has started their season 2-0, and let's just look. 82 points scored with 32 points allowed. Sounds great, right? Let's look at who they played. Limestone and Tusculum. Both 0-2 on the year. Limestone is what we call a gimme. Like, that's a cupcake game. So we're talking about number 20 ranked West Al. I mean, you don't want to sleep on them, but from playing those teams to playing Valdosta State, it's just like the number 1 team in the nation. It's going to be a big wake-up call, and it's at home here in Valdosta. So, I mean, how can they not repeat that 58-24 victory?
Well, you know how I feel about the Gulf South Conference. I think it's the toughest conference in Division II football. I think it is. If you look back at the last 3 seasons, you have North Alabama, who were runner-ups in 2017, 2016, excuse me. 2017, West Florida made the trip to the championship. Mm-hmm. And then last year, obviously, the Blazers were the national champions. Dominating. So this is a conference that always produces top-tier Division II competition, I guess you could say.
For sure.
Obviously, when they're playing out-of-conference foes, it's not really going to stack up. That's what every football team in the nation does when they can do that. But now you're going from non-conference opponents to conference opponents. Your play is automatically going to have to tick up. Okay. It's automatically going to. This isn't the NFL where you jump right in and you have to play the Patriots week 1 or you have to play a top-tier team week 1. This is Division II football. You can schedule cupcakes early on to get your guys back in routine, back into the game flow. But once conference starts, it's time to play conference ball. And I don't think you can overlook a team like West Alabama. Now, am I saying that VSU is going to get blown out? No. Am I saying that VSU is going to be in a dogfight? Yes. They're the number 20 team in the nation.
Okay. And wait, you said this thing about Ohio Jamaican, how it's going to be a game. And I know West Alabama is a more formidable opponent, but like we've been saying, this is almost the same team from last year. The kids the guys that left and who starts now, I mean, no drop off in production. I'm seeing another easy W. I mean, and let's not forget last year how many times they started off slow in that first half and then went and came out that second half and just tore it up.
That's a good point. But as I will continue to say, and I mean, last year's done. So
it's wrapped up.
With last year, I think, especially against West Alabama, because I think West Alabama was number 8. They were in the top 10 last season at this time of the season.
Was West Georgia.
So they kind of caught them off guard with their play. That 58 points, you're looking at it as a road game. I remember exactly how I was thinking with the Blazers going there, coming off a 5-4 season. They're going to lose. I'm thinking, okay, cool. We beat Fort Valley last year in the Okefenokee 55-6, whatever the score was. We beat Albany.
Shut them out.
But no, we had them 42 last year, 42-14, whatever the score was last year. I'm thinking, okay, we finished our cupcake games. We're going to go on the road. We're going to lose. It's going to make us reevaluate where we are in the season. But they came out with a win. I think we were in the office when that happened, laying out pages and stuff, and the scores were coming in. And I'm looking at the game, and I'm like, dang, AB just returned a touchdown. Dang, Rivarius Rivers just returned a touchdown. This team might be okay. But now that role is reversed. You have West Alabama, who is the team that's looking down, looking up, like, hey, this is our opportunity to get them on the road and jump into the standings. So, I mean, with the roles being reversed, you never really know.
Yeah, I never really know, but I do know that West Alabama still has those dangerous wide receivers that they've had. But after the games that this defense has put on, I think they're ready to face a formidable opponent as far as passing game goes. I mean, 3 picks last year. It's hard. It's hard not to say that they're gonna dominate them again. But let's get into a player to watch.
I was just about to ask you, who's your guy for this West Alabama game? Who's the guy that last week you went with Seth, I went with LC. Both of those came out to be really smart choices. Who are you going with this week?
I'm going on defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And this might be influenced because of last game's, sack master. But it's not Thomas and Coombe. I'm sorry. Much love.
I know who you're going to go with.
I got to go with the dog in the trench.
I know.
Joe Mazzone.
I knew you were going with Joe.
Look out for him. I'm thinking at least 2 sacks and a handful of tackles, but his presence is going to be known. He's going to make his presence known today.
Okay. That's a good pick. I mean, Joe is a preseason all-conference guy. He's one of the hardest workers on the team. He's developed himself to be one of those guys that you can look at in the locker room and you're like, wow, when you see him play, you have all the other guys like, oh, we need to get on our horses. We need to go like him. So that's a really good pick. I'm going to stay on offense. And this may be me playing safe or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go with Rogan Wells. I don't think that that's a...
When you say a player to watch, when we talk about Rogan, all right, what type of game are you talking about?
I think he's going to have a classic Rogan game. He's going to get, let's say, 50 rushing yards. I'm thinking maybe a long play or something around 50. He can get above 50, but I think 50 is that bar that he's going to, get to at least. Maybe 3 or 4 rushing attempts from that 50. And then passing, he's not going to turn the ball over. I don't see him throwing any interceptions. Knock on wood right now. If you are watching this, knock on wood, because I'm not trying to jinx him. But, I think he's going to take care of the ball around 20 or so pass attempts. I think he's going to split time with Ivory. I think we'll see a little bit of Ivory in this game. But I think Rogan is the guy who I'll go with because it's just a safe pick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's the player to watch, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go with that. Now that we got the player to watch, let's get into the hot stuff.
Ooh.
The hot takes. Hot takes. Now, we already talked about our hot takes from last game. Mine did not come true. I predicted that the Blazers would not allow a touchdown. That didn't happen, but he predicted 2 scores from special teams or defense. That didn't happen. So it's a new week, new hot takes. Go ahead, Justin, hit him with it.
It is a new week. I am putting the past behind me. I have realized the error of my ways.
Okay.
I was foolish to say that there was going to be 2 touchdowns while not on offense. I'm climbing down to 1. And it's going to be a special team one.
So, okay. Now,
it's going to be a special team one.
All right. Special teams touchdown.
Do you want me to get any closer than I am?
I mean, go ahead. Do what you got to do, Chief.
It's going to be LC Gallimore, my boy, returning a kickoff for a touchdown. Crib visit. I'm calling it. Hello, is this the crib? Yeah, this LC. I'm on the way. All right. LC is going to be there. Listen, he got some time last week. He had 1 return last week on the return. I think he had 28 yards or something around there off of 1. He's dangerous when he gets the ball.
Easily.
If he can find a hole or a crease with all of those blockers, he's gone.
You know who I'd like to see at punt return?
Yes.
Kenny Benjamin.
Oh, that's not who I was going to say.
I know, but I'd really like to see Kenny back there.
50K too.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
All right. Here's my hot take, Justin. The new number 1, the speedster.
Oh.
David White.
Oh.
This is his game.
Big game.
He's leading the team in receiving. I mean, no shade to, LC, Brian Songs, but this is David White's game. The top is coming off.
I don't think it's shade.
It's not shade. That boy can fly.
So
you wear number 1 for a good reason.
Last year, actually, against West Bama, he had 2 touchdowns. So this actually might be a good hot take. David White, if you're watching, this might be a little bit of pressure on you, but I mean, just a little bit. Make us look smart, man.
Please.
Make us look smart. Because last week, we looked kind of dumb. I'm not going to lie. We looked kind of dumb.
You want to do a little score prediction before we wrap this up?
Score.
I got you. 50 points for the Blazers. Who cares whatever West Alabama's getting? 50 points, a W. That's mine.
I'm going to go a little bit more sane. This is the first conference game.
Playing safe, man.
Live
on the edge.
I've
hashtag
lived on
live on the edge. Hashtag play fast, score faster.
I've lived on the edge, and it got me a very bad hot take last week. I'm staying safe in all of my hot takes.
Shout out Sesame Gill for playing, making me look smart.
So that one video that you had where he made the 2 guys miss, I got a photo of that. That's actually a few pictures that I used in the game. So yeah, that was pretty good. But I've played on the edge before. This is the first conference opponent that they're gonna see. First time Coach Goff is playing a GSC opponent as head coach.
It's gonna be a wake-up call.
I think that they're just gonna, get there. Let's say 35 points, 35 to 14. That's my no. 41. No, that's too high. That's too high.
Here we go.
Wait,
this
hold on.
guy here.
Q's Jeopardy music.
This is unbelievable. I play on the edge. I live on the edge. Let it fly, Justin. Go ahead. It's gonna be a blowout.
34-14.
34-14.
34-14.
I'm saying
2
50.
field goals and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, you're getting real specific. I'm just saying 50. I need the 50 ball. They almost had it 48. I mean, they were a field goal away.
If they didn't stall out on that last drive before halftime, they would have had it.
They should have put that. They should have hit the gas on that last
I told
one.
you,
But
they should have put it on the tee in Valdosta in the
fine.
end zone and let somebody go get it.
They're not sweating that 50.
Yeah, it's okay. Rogan said he wasn't worried about it, so we're not worried about it.
Not at all.
Not at all.
That wraps it up, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our second episode of the What's Your Take podcast. Once again, I'm Joshua Miller, joined by my boy Justin Lewis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week.
This is a PT high.